awesome. Hi. So yeah, I have a YouTube channel called How to ADHD. Basically, at 30 years old, I was still really struggling and going nowhere with my life, and I was like, clearly pills are not doing the trick by themselves, so why don't I learn some strategies? And while I'm at it, why don't I put them somewhere where I won't lose them? And while I'm at it, why don't I make them public in case they're helpful for anybody else? So I have a YouTube channel that's edutainment strategies. Woo!
What's going on, y'all? My name is Hart. Cool. I think the reason why I'm here today is because I just recently came out to my audience as schizophrenic, and it's been a journey. I didn't tell anybody about my mental health or my mental illnesses or anything up until literally earlier this year, and it's been a journey. I didn't think. Thank you. It's been a journey. But yeah. Got a YouTube channel, youtube.com/Hartbeat. Been a comedian for a long time, making other people laugh, and sometimes it's hard to get myself to laugh sometimes. All right.
Hi, what's up, everybody? My name is Hart. Also, I am, I guess, most known for a show called My Drunk Kitchen, which is just a beacon of mental wellness. And I also recently announced that I have a show coming out on Food Network later this year, August 14th, 10 p.m.
I Heart Food.
If you like to escape, you will like I Heart Food. So watch it, I'll be there, yay! And I love talking about mental health.
Hi, I'm Connor. I'm shocked. I love that.
Why
Hi,
are you
everyone.
shocked?
So I make videos. I've been making videos for about 7 years. I like to talk about feelings. It's one of my favorite things to do. Yeah, I have often shared about personal things with being LGBTQ, gender fluid, depression, anxiety, sobriety, all these kinds of things. And yeah, and it's awesome to be a part of the community and to be up here and to be a part of this. I'm so thrilled and just like humbled as well. So yeah, I'm very excited to be up here.
Ooh, big round of applause for our panelists. My name is Kati Morton. I'm a licensed therapist and I have a mental health education channel on YouTube. Thanks to all my Kenyans for the love. So I would always like to start a panel like this because everyone talks about their issues, illnesses, people in their family, etc. for different reasons and at different times in our journey on YouTube. And so if you would each be willing to share what prompted that conversation, like what started it, maybe what held you back for a while from starting that conversation? Whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, I mean, I was making really dumb, what I thought were funny videos for a few years, and then ran into some troubles in my life, and there was a very specific moment I remember in like 2013 where I decided to make a video that was personal, and just about something that I thought, and it wasn't about like, oh, I'm sad, but it was just like thematically kind of encompassed those things, and over time it just sort of became natural for me to share. It became healthy for me to share, and not in like a self-serving way, just to do it and just to participate in it. And it became something that like I wanted to become a better person, and I wanted to make better videos, and those two things started informing each other. And when they became relevant to my life issues and things, I shared them when I felt ready, when I felt comfortable, and it was really helpful for me personally, and it was an opportunity for me to connect with a whole lot of people as well. And I'm over the moon and feel so lucky because I have an opportunity to do that, even to just a small amount of people. It's incredible. It's awesome.
This is one of those panels where you're gonna feel compelled to clap like all the time, just as it's like, oh, that's so good, Connor, thank you.
I'm like, yay, boo, boo, boo.
Yay.
Turkey bacon.
Yeah, you know, it's got more salt than regular bacon. Yeah.
She would know. She has the show on Food Network.
I would know. I was disappointed to find that out. And veggie bacon's really bad for you. Anyway, so I guess I started sharing about my mental health journey. I mean, it's kind of interesting because I guess I didn't even realize I was speaking that openly about it until I was on a mental health panel with Tom like 3 years ago. And I was like, oh wow, okay, this is becoming part of the life. But yeah, what have I talked about on my channel? I did a video talking briefly about ADHD because I found out I had it late in life, like I was around 26, 27. So I discussed that, and then most recently I did a video about a topic that I never really talked about, or hadn't really talked about yet, which is what it's like to live with depression. And it's called Depression in Under 2 Minutes. And I was really taken aback by how many people received it so positively and connected with it. Because, you know, it's not a fun thing to talk about. And it feels weird because when you're depressed, you're not going to be like, hey guys, let me tell you about living with depression, you know? But I did make that video during like a real low. And so I'm proud of it still. Anyway, that's me. Turkey bacon.
Yeah. I was actually quite terrified to get on this panel because my mental illness is something I've been struggling with since I was 19. That's when I was diagnosed. And as a black woman in a black household, you got your mama saying, it's okay, baby, you're not crazy, you just need Jesus. That's all you need, baby. We just gonna go to church every Sunday until we pray all that evil out your ass, okay? And to share it with a group of people who I didn't really know on a personal level, who's never seen me go through like very horrible schizophrenic episodes, is always challenging. And even today, my audience doesn't know how bad it can get. But I gave myself 7 months to work on myself, only myself. Minimal content, didn't worry about what no one had to say, went to the hospital, took my meds, did therapy, and now I'm at a much better place in my life, and I'm just proud to tell y'all that today.
Self-care.
I started talking about ADHD because that was my channel from the very beginning, was like, okay, I need to figure out my brain. I need to figure out what works, what helps, and how to stick to it. And I was just like, I just went into full-on research mode because I was like running out of time to do something with my life. Like, I'd always been told I had a lot of potential and I was clearly not reaching it. And I was like, all right, gung-ho, like just let's, for as long as it takes, figure out what's wrong with my brain and like how I can do better and share that with people. But I was really lucky. I never felt bad for having ADHD. I didn't realize what a stigma there was against it until I started doing these videos and people started giving me the feedback that that it was really overwhelming to them to not feel alone, to not feel like there was just something wrong with them personally. So once I started realizing the effect that it was having, I was like, oh, this is what I'm doing for a living. I'm not figuring this out so that I can be successful at something else. This is important.
Turkey bacon.
Why did I start talking about mental health? Well, as a straight cisgender guy, I was starting to get really jealous of all these coming out videos. The reason I started talking about it was I became depressed. It happened over the course of a year, and I suddenly sunk really deep. And it was genuinely easier for me, as someone who was a YouTuber, to talk to a camera than people. And so I did make this sort of coming out video called I'm Depressed, wherein you can figure it out. And as I started doing that, I realized that, yeah, as you were saying, like it makes people feel less alone, and you give people solace, and that was great. And I realized that even though I don't have all the answers, just talking about, and it's very important to know that I don't have all the answers. Katie's the expert. Just talking about it was enough to make some people feel less awful. That was the point.
And I do want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for being brave and sharing your stories, because I know it can be scary and we might not know how people are going to respond. And I'm just proud of you. I know it's hard. I know it can be scary, and it's amazing. It reminds people that they're not alone.
Before we keep going, I just want to do like kind of what Tom was touching on, just like a huge disclaimer that like I don't think anyone up here is an expert by any means, and it's also a journey. It's a real process. It's not something that you reach and you're like, oh my God, I've achieved wellness, check. And so when we talk about the things that we are currently using, or coping mechanisms, or the tools that we've discovered up until this point, remember that stays fluid. And if it doesn't work for you, that doesn't mean it doesn't work. And there might be something else out there that works for you. So just kind of with that lens.
Yeah. And I would say that that's true whether you're getting the information from an expert or not. I do a lot of research to try and bring people strategies that are really effective, but that doesn't mean it's going to work for you, and it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you if it doesn't. The whole point of any mental health strategy is to try things out and find things to put in your mental health toolbox that work, and not keep trying to cram things in that don't. Because I read a lot of self-help books for neurotypical brains, that did not work at all and just left me feeling terrible about myself.
I've been diagnosed for 8 years now, and I still don't know nothing about what I got. Okay, Google don't tell you everything, baby. It don't.
And I think that is important. And with that, have any of you received professional help? I know we've kind of alluded to it through the course of this. And what was that like? Because I hear from a lot of my viewers that they don't know, or they're scared, or what if I hate my therapist or something? Because trust me, there are people that are shitty at their jobs, no matter what job they have. And so you have to find someone who works for you. It's true.
Yeah, I've had a lot of therapy, and when I first got sober about 5 years ago, I was in an outpatient rehab program for substance abuse, and actually one of the tools that I got there is one that I still use to this day. And kind of going off of that whole I don't have the answers thing, is that the only thing that I have is my narrative. So when speaking about things, I try to avoid using the phrase you, or to give direct advice like I know what I'm talking about for somebody else's life. All I have is my story, so I use I statements. I talk about things that I've gone through, and that's something that has been a direct result of professional help that I received. And to this day, every once in a while I'll go back into therapy. I'm on medication, and it's just something that is critical to it. And I also think it's critical that it's normalized, because there's so much stigma. It's like, oh, you're taking medication. Yeah, I'm treating a medical condition, and that's kind of how I view it. I wish that's how the world viewed it. I should not be ashamed. I was at work recently, and I mentioned that I was on antidepressants, and they were like, and I was like, yeah, no, I'm sad a lot, and so I'm taking something for that. So I just that's one of the things I want to do, is normalize by being okay while also being vulnerable with this stuff. That's important to me. It's so critical for me.
Bless up. I guess over the course of my life, I had to go to court-appointed counseling when I was little. So counting that, I guess I've been to 7 therapists and 2 psychiatrists. And right now I'm feeling pretty good about what I got going on. But it is tedious and really annoying and very frustrating and really hard to deal with, because it's just you just don't want to deal with it. But it's really important to start taking care of yourself as early as possible in life, And I think that everybody here, if you have the ability to do so, it's really worth it. It's worth the time it takes to kind of figure out a system that's going to work for you. And spoiler alert, sometimes systems that work for a period of time stop working, and then you have to do different things, and you kind of have to start it all over again. But it's a little bit easier every time, or rather it's something you're more used to. My mom is taking medication for the first time in her life. She's on a monthly injectable, and it is changing her world, and it's incredible. And so that's why it's so important. Yeah, clap, clap, turkey bacon, turkey bacon! But that's why it's so important that even if you're here in the audience as a parent, or as somebody, no matter what stage you are in your life, you can begin your mental health journey today, period. So, but
I'm probably on my 18th different therapist in the span of just going in and out of mental institutions. And it's mostly because I'll be talking to somebody you don't know me, get out. And I was really stubborn and in a lot of denial, nothing was wrong with me, nothing was wrong with me. Screw your pills, man. I know it's just the government trying to, I was just all over the place, y'all. Okay, and now that I actually sat with a therapist, I still don't even really like that much. I just go to blow off some steam and talk. And one thing that helps something that's a part of my therapy, and it's actually kind of working, it's working tremendously right now, is I play a video game called The Sims. There's something about taking control of a virtual life other than mine that makes me feel so at peace with myself. And I then turned that around, because I hadn't been posting content that much. I turned that around and said, you know what, I'm gonna write a web series out of these Sim characters. And now I wrote a lesbian-driven web series using The Sims 4, and I'm gonna be pitching that to Fox very, very soon.
So ADHD is something something that affects pretty much every aspect of your life. So I have had a range of support. Multimodal treatment is what's recommended. So I've had psychiatrists, and a psychiatrist, when you have ADHD, you know, the medication you get is a controlled substance, so you have to go every month. So I see a psychiatrist once a month, and I'm like, hi, yeah, I'm good. Okay, let's keep going. I've seen a therapist, I've seen a coach. All of these things have been really valuable. And then even accountability, whether you get it through a coach or a friend, but somebody to help you stay on track when you have ADHD is really helpful. I'm currently using any of you that happen to watch my YouTube channel as my accountability partners, because I know that if I don't post a video for a couple weeks, you guys are gonna be like, are you okay? Are you dead? And when I say no, then you guys are like, well, where's the video then? So it's really helpful because I love The Sims too. I was obsessed with this in high school. It was my absolute hyper focus, and I think that ADHD life is like The Sims when you forget to like give them things to do. If you don't tell them what they're doing next, and they just like will watch TV until they pee. That's what life is like with ADHD if you don't have the support and guidance that you need.
Or the dishes will just catch on fire.
Yeah,
Just for no
this
reason.
happens.
I also take a controlled substance, and you have to go once a month to go pick it up. And it's so funny because every time you go to like Rite Aid or CVS or whatever, they're like, you again. And I'm like, yes, I'll be here every 30 days.
Don't you feel so guilty? My insurance decided this year that they weren't going to pay for my medication anymore because apparently it's only for 18 and under, and I'm like, all right, this is not okay. So yeah. By the way, if that ever happens to anybody, if they deny your prescription, you can appeal it, and most of the time they will approve it. Just to let you know, you do not have to take no for an answer.
And don't feel guilty about it either. You're asking the pharmacist to go do like maybe a little additional paperwork and make one phone call, and like, you know, at the same way that you're like, oh, I don't want to clean my room right now. Like, think of that level of effort. You're not affecting this person's life at all. You're asking them to do their job.
I think you and I have very different ideas of how messy my room is. That's a big job. So like how you mentioned to use The Sims. The Sims gave me such an existential crisis. I recently played it.
I just feel so overjoyed that I'm not alone with this game. Everyone else looks at me like I'm crazy. Girl, you're playing
It does
digital
not work
house.
for me. It does not work for me. I made myself big mistake. Like, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make a version of me. He's gonna do the same career as me, and oh my god, no one loves him. And he died alone. And I was like, I finished this. I played it for like 24 straight hours. I should have slept. I didn't. And like he just died, and I was like, oh, no. But I've gone on a bit of a journey as well. Like I'm sure everyone here with treatment. I've tried a couple therapists, but you know, I'd love to be able to say it's as simple as like there are bad therapists, but I think they just have to fit with you, and I haven't found one that works for me yet. But I went on a kind of about a 6-month-long to a year-long journey with medication, where I was trying one thing at different dosages, another thing at different dosages, another thing at different dosages, and then eventually I found something that like, well, I was going on that journey because I was like waiting for the one that solved it and solved all the problems. It didn't happen, which was weird. But I did find a medication and a dosage that like did something. It helped. And that was enough to be like, okay, I'm at least stable now. So yeah, that's kind of where I am at with my journey.
Yeah, and I think it's something to. We're a very loving, supporting
Actually,
community.
Katie, I want to add something to this. It can feel really hard to take care of yourself sometimes when you have a mental illness, mental disorder, and it can feel like that's really expensive and I shouldn't pay for that. I'm not worthy of it sometimes. Mental illness is expensive. Mental disorders are expensive. ADHD costs this country $42 billion a year. So taking the time to go to a therapist or a psychiatrist might cost a little bit now, but in terms of your ability to live your life, and in terms of, you know, like I'm able to pay bills on time now, which is amazing. I used to pay so much in late fees, I might as well have had an appointment with a therapist every week for how much I was spending on that. So it can feel weird to put a budget aside for your mental health, but it's so important.
And as long as you guys understand that there's also programs as well, especially in the LGBT centers, oh my God, there's housing, there's documents you can sign to get you into somewhere. You can get things for free. You just gotta go and take the steps. You take the first initial steps to go and ask questions. There are programs.
And websites like NAMI, N-A-M-I, is a great resource. There's groups there. There's also family groups. So if you have a family member who's suffering from a psychosis or like a life-altering, debilitating illness, etc., there are groups, support groups out there for friends and family as well. So even if you're just an ally, there's resources for you.
Yeah, and I think it is important to know that getting help can be hard, but it's so worth it. I think we spend money on everything. Food, clothes, haircuts, chapstick, you name it. Why wouldn't we spend it on our mental health?
Pokemon Go. I spend so much money on Pokemon Go. It's disgusting.
How much do you reckon you've spent?
Total?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Honestly, $35.
I was gonna say, I think
That's cute.
Well, I mean, I've only started playing again for 2 months.
Well,
Love those lucky eggs.
catch me in 10 months and see if you can beat my $250.
Man, I gotta make an app with like buy-ins.
It's better than buying alcohol, I guess, but it's a real problem.
It's like 3 therapy sessions.
that's
Yep.
what I was thinking, Tom.
Oh, as soon as these apps start taking food stamps, then we got a problem.
But I just want to let you all know that it's hard to reach out, but we're all kind of talking about how it's worth it. And I even personally am in my own therapy because I think I have to take care of myself in order to help others. And I always caution my audience. I'm like, it's great to reach out and support other friends, but make sure you're taking care of you first and you're putting your health and wellness first, because this is your one house you have to live. So let's take care of it. And something that I find to be really refreshing about social media as a whole is that we're all here and it's not weird and we're talking about it. Yay! And I know. Because 1 in 4 are affected globally. So that means that everybody has been affected. That's what that tells me. And do you guys feel that using social media, being online, do you think it's lessened the stigma? Do you think it's made it easier to talk about? Why or not?
I think it's hard for me to make a comment about society as a whole, but in my individual life, absolutely. Within my family, there have been some people who are younger than me going through some things, and just the way that it's talked about is just so much more normal than when I was just a couple years ago. And people are speaking, and they're coming to me and they're asking, and they're just talking honestly. And so I can't really speak to the world, but in my life, absolutely, social media and the fact that I've been so vocal and been so adamant, and specifically with addiction, because you look at me, you see a white kind of sort of normal looking individual, and I say things like, I am a drug addict, and people are like, no, don't say that, you're not that, but I'm like, no, that guy on the street that you see, that you dehumanize, that you ignore, that you pretend they don't exist, that's me. That can be me. And so just those kinds of identifiers and kind of owning it and owning my narrative, and also the community aspect of that to kind of tie myself into other people has definitely helped. And I've noticed I have little sisters, I have younger cousins and people, and just the way that my family talks about it is just absolutely incredible just to watch, because I'm like, oh my god, they don't have to deal with the crap that I went through, and it's so much easier and nicer and better, and we're all getting better, and I love that so much.
Definitely, yes. Turkey bacon. I mean, talking about it's easy. I feel like I can talk about it theoretically and on the meta level, my meta narrative of mental illness, or mental wellness. It's really the journey of mental wellness. It's not about mental illness, because it makes it sound like we're looking at a disease that's going to be cured, but there is no cure. You're not trying to cure anything. This is more about how you're going to live the life that you visualize for yourself, the one that you want for you. So I can talk about it till kingdom come. It's it's just so tedious. Mental health upkeep is so tedious, and it's so frustrating. And every time it's oh, here we are again, this place I've been before, and then you stay there forever. The end.
That's not the message. No.
That's not the message.
I was always terrified to talk about it because, like I said, living in a black household, mom thinks Jesus is going to cure everything.
Jesus' blood specifically will
Just,
heal you.
yes, sipping his wine is just going to make me not crazy. I didn't choose to start talking about what I had. Like, I wanted to establish who I was as an individual first before sharing something so personal to a large group of people. And, you know, I like established my resume. Girl, I could write, I could produce, I could edit, I could direct, I could do all these things. And I'm schizophrenic. What? Say something to me. Say something else. You can't, yeah, okay. Say it again. And it was just it's like a valid thing to show people, like, it don't matter what you got, everybody's journey is different. No one has your mind, you feel me? You are the only one living with yourself, you know what I'm saying? So it's up to you to make sure you're on the positive route to dealing with it. Like she said, there's no cure for what's going on. You just have to learn how to get through it and to deal with it. If you need Jesus, it can work. If you need him, then go talk to him, okay? Yeah, cool guy.
Yeah, I honestly, social media gives us a place to connect. Through doing my YouTube channel, have found my tribe, and that's been really powerful. They talk about neurotribes, finding other people who understand how you think. We don't necessarily all think the same way. If you've met one person with ADHD, you've met one person with ADHD, but we understand what it's like to think differently, or to interrupt in the middle of a conversation, or to have 5 conversations at once, and it can feel so normalizing. Like, you can feel like you're not the freak in the room when you connect with other people who are going through what you're going through. And I think that's a lot of it. It's just finding others who understand is really powerful and allows you to be more yourself without being apologetic about it. And I really appreciate that. It also lessens the stigma by you get to see other people who are dealing with what you're dealing with, and you're usually a lot nicer to other people than you are to yourself. So I was really kicked myself for a lot of things that I see in other people who have ADHD, and I'm like, oh, it's not so bad. And actually, they're really fun to hang out with. And so I've started to appreciate a lot more of the positive qualities about ADHD by seeing it in other people and seeing how awesome they are. And the third way I think it helps is it gives people permission to talk about it themselves. I have heard so many people say, I wasn't okay with talking about this at work, with my family, on social media, with my friends, until I heard you talking about it, and it made me feel less alone, and now maybe I can give that to other people. And that's incredible. There's only one thing I would caution about, which is remember that your story, we've talked about it a bit, is your story. So when you talk about it, make sure you make a distinction between this is my personal story, and then this is, the disorder at large, because I see a lot of people who are very well-meaning telling people, oh, this is how you do it. This is how you become successful or get better or whatever. And it's not going to work for everybody. And it's just really important, especially, medication or no medication, just respect that everybody's brain is different. So everybody's course of treatment is going to be different. And there is no one solution for everybody. Did that make sense? What was the question?
That was a question.
I figured I'd just wait because people seem to clap after everything we say and whenever there's a pause, so. Yeah. I think I have kind of a weird, complex opinion on the idea of us and what we do. Talking about mental health is great, and I think it is great that we can lessen the stigma around it. But it also is inevitably going to come with a bit of a drawback in that we are called influencers. In the world of media, we are called influencers. And we are going to destigmatize mental illness, which is good. We're going to normalize talking about it, which is good. But unfortunately, there is this I believe there is this inevitable part of this journey where it will also romanticize and glorify, and I say this with a little bit of experience in that I've done a lot of videos about depression, and the sadder and the more hopeless they are, the more views they get. And the 2 videos I've done with Katie, which are actually videos about how you help yourself, are some of the biggest flops on my channel, and it's kind of worrying. And I think that there's going to be this. I still think it's great that we talk about it, because I think what's going to happen is that before we can normalize it to the point that it is completely destigmatized, it'll go taboo, like everything. It'll go taboo, sexy, boring, in a way. And that might sound a bit weird, but I genuinely think that's what will happen. Like how you had the free love movement and stuff. which was the response to massive sexual repression, and now we're just kind of like, yeah, sex, all right, cool. And so, yeah, I mean, feel free to disagree with me, but that's just a thought I have.
No,
I feel like people want to watch transformation videos. People want to watch the 1.5 minute long to like an evanescence rock track, like how I lost 90 pounds, and it's just photos of somebody and they're transforming their body. But nobody's gonna watch the 90-day long series or multi-year series of this person being like, and then I made these incremental changes to my lifestyle. But it's so important to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, like I have a full-time job and I haven't called out in 2 weeks. Yeah.
I want to add to what you said, because I think yeah, there is a certain amount of glorification that can come with it by seeing somebody up on the screen that has something, and then you want to kind of feel like, oh, well, maybe that's cool. And I'm glad that we're going the other way, but I think a lot of it is that before we're even ready for strategies, so many people just need to know that it's okay, that they're not alone. And so I think that's probably a lot of why. I mean, one of my biggest videos is, am I a failure? And it was just me like messing up so bad that I couldn't put out a video that week. And so I talked about that, and that was really powerful to people. And meanwhile, I spend 6 weeks of research on something and provide all these strategies, and that doesn't do as well. But I think it's because one of the most important things really is to know that you're not the only one dealing with it.
Yeah. At a show of hands, who really likes 13 Reasons Why? Oh, got it, baby. I understand. I get it. The only reason why I bring it up is because it's the first time I necessarily saw something that was just so circled around what depression was. I feel like they did a good thing, but at the same time a horrible thing, because they really romanticize depression rather than, I don't know, like...
I couldn't watch that show. I saw like one episode and I was like, no, thanks. Like, it's a great premise, right? It's like 13 Reasons Why. Like, let's see, I had a therapist tell me once that suicide and suicidal ideation and suicide is a symptom of depression. It's not like suicide is this thing that's gonna happen. You're like, I have suicide, so it's like you can cope, you can help heal yourself and help understand yourself before making a permanent solution to a temporary feeling. Yeah, so no, I hated that show.
Same. And I think the frustration lies, there's good and bad. It started a conversation. I'm always for that, that's awesome. But I think the thing that frustrated me most as a mental health professional was like, why didn't Clay get help at all in that show? Oh my God, he was having such a hard time.
Or like, why in that, like, I think I was talking about this the other day, in your health classes, your sex ed or whatever, like classes you have in high school, middle school, etc. If they should do like, if your friend has suicidal inclinations, or if your friend says this, or if your friend wants to confide in you about molestation or rape, teaching people how to listen, not just the emphasis on talk to somebody, but like, if somebody talks to me and they say something like, whoa, yesterday I was raped, I had to learn how to react and listen to that and like be there for them, because a lot of people are like, what? No. Are you sure?
Totally, because we don't know
where's
how to
that
respond.
education?
Well, why do we have PE? We have physical education, but why don't we have mental education?
Exactly.
It'd be pretty easy, right? I mean, it's a simple like communication skills.
I don't know what to, if someone I love is talking to me and they said like, yeah, I felt really like suicidal the other week, or they say something like that, I don't know how to respond. That's something I have to learn. Like, I have to ask my therapist, like, what do I say? And then she told me what to say, and I was like, okay.
Usually no one knows what to say, really. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're a true friend to somebody, you're gonna wanna make sure they get the correct help that they need. So you're gonna research the best that you can. And sometimes it might be too late. But one thing, the 13 Reasons Why inspired a tattoo. I have a tape cassette tattooed on my wrist now. And it wasn't because I liked the show. It was just because I love my audience, and they were the one reason why I didn't kill myself. I just wanted to share that. But yeah, like, no one ever knows what's going on in the mind of somebody else.
Yeah. And with that in mind, with talking about our community, how powerful it is, I'd like to turn it over to some questions from you. So we have, I'm not sure where Ryan is, but he's gonna run out at any moment with a microphone and pick somebody, I was told. There's Ryan.
How you guys doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. All right, I typed in my question. All right. Let me just start off by saying I really appreciate and thank you guys for sharing your stories and being knowledgeable and learning about everything, how the system works around mental health and what resources exist in our community. So my question is, what ways can you educate the viewers so that they can learn to support friends or families living with a mental health diagnosis?
Can you repeat it one more time? In what ways can you educate?
Yeah, educate, or what advice you have for the viewers so that they can learn how to support families or friends that are going through any signs of mental health.
So like if someone in our life is struggling, like how can we best be there for them, or what are some tools and ways that we can talk to them?
That's right.
Okay.
I mean, literally being there is one of my favorites. When I'm sometimes just in a hole, and it's nice when people are just there. I'm not there to be like entertained or to like lift me up, but just to be present, just company. Like sometimes I'm just gonna sit in my underwear all day and play video games, and it's nice to have a friend who'll just come over and just, you know, just working, or they're just reading a book. It's nice to have that. I don't stay in my underwear when they arrive. I have a modicum of respect, real small. But yeah, just company is great for one thing.
It's like being included. Yeah, no, there's a lot of pressure, and I felt this myself, to save people, to fix them, to like make it better, and especially for people that we care about, people that we love. You see them hurting, and you're like, I want to help that, and there is a pressure that you kind of put on yourself, which almost sometimes makes it worse because you make it about yourself. So number one for me is just listen, you know. I try to attack all of this stuff from the most empathic perspective possible. I try to understand what somebody else is going through because I don't know what they're going through, you know. Even if it's similar to something that's happened to me, maybe I can talk about those similarities, but just listening, just being present, and I know personally, I oftentimes feel like, and even just like last night, I was dealing with stuff where I was like apologizing for being weird, and it's like, there's so much guilt when you feel like you are being the burden to somebody else. But so when you are on the other side of that, just emphasizing that you're not, you know, that it's not, it's like, I'm choosing to be with you because I care about you. I'm choosing to include myself in your life because you're important to me. I'm inviting you over just to hang out and eat pizza and just be trash and watch the X-Files and like, just like love our lives. And even if it's not wonderful, even if it's not glamorous, it's like, you're still important to me. And I don't know how to fix it. I don't have an answer for you, but I'm here, you know, and that's it, and that's enough. Sometimes can save a life, you know.
I want to give a shout out to one of my really good friends, Trey Melvin, in the audience right now. Shout out to Trey sitting over there. I just recently, literally 3 weeks before VidCon happened, I had to be hospitalized, and I called him because I was living in LA in the middle of Koreatown by myself, have to take care of myself, and having his support that day meant a lot. And all I did was call him and say, hey, I need to go to the hospital. He said, girl, okay, I'll be there in 5 minutes, all right? I live 20 minutes away, but I don't know how I'm gonna get there. I'll be there in a second. And he dropped me off, didn't ask no questions, didn't try and fix anything. He just dropped me off, took me where I needed to go. So baby, I love you so much for that. Saved my life that day.
Yeah, non-judgmental acceptance, I would say, the best thing. Yeah, be there and non-judgmental acceptance. Just listen, understand. I had my very first panic attack this year, and my fiance Edward, who produces a show with me, I just told him, I was like, I think this is a panic attack. From what I know, I think I'm having a panic attack. The world is gonna end, everything's gonna fall apart. I feel like I'm unraveling. And he goes, okay. And he just sat there and rubbed my back and helped me through it. He reminded me that the world was not ending, but that it was okay that I was feeling what I was feeling. And it was the most powerful help I've ever gotten from a friend in a mental health situation. And it was just amazing to know that he wasn't looking at me like I was weird.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like if there's only two things to remember, it's one, don't, as the listener, this is not about me. Don't make it about you. You know, if they're experiencing something and you really want them to be a different way right now, sorry, they're not. So just remember, this is not about me, meaning the listener. And the other thing I would say in terms of we say listening, as if listening's the easiest thing to do, just slow down. If you want to ask questions, slow down. Count to 30 before being like, okay, yeah, okay. Because I know for me personally, every time somebody is like, then I'm like, yep.
Yeah, and I think the overarching message that I'm assuming everybody's kind of saying is just be there. I think that's what a lot of people want. We don't necessarily know what we might need at a certain time, but just checking in. Hey, I'm thinking of you. I'm here if you need me. Sometimes that's all we really need, without any judgment, without any pace, without all of that. Just being there. That's it. Next question.
Jesus.
My name's Christina. I have ADHD and ADHD-induced anxiety. So my question is for Hannah and Jessica.
You pull the mic a little closer.
Yeah, sorry. So I was diagnosed like Hannah between like 26 going on 27, and I was going through grad school and I went through college undiagnosed. And I just want to know, like, for you guys, after you got your diagnosis, did it make you a better person? Like, did you become, like, just a better version of yourself once you figured out what was going on and, like, did you get yourself together?
Did you guys hear the question?
Yeah, no, I like to view my various mental conditions as just my crappy little companions. They just follow me around everywhere, and sometimes they're tugging at my leg like, hey, and then they like punch me, they're like, pay attention to me, and I'm like, no. And so having a name, something specific to put to it, was absolutely significant and very helpful for me, because now I know it's like, oh, I'm sad. Why am I sad? And sometimes it's like a weird relief. It's like, oh, there's no reason why I'm sad. There's nothing actually wrong in my life. It's just that little crap thing down there being like, I want to make you sad for a bit. And so like having a name for it, having a way to describe it for me personally, incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I think definitely like being able to like have a name for it, and go to websites and like look it up and stuff. It's all really great. For like, I feel like it all comes in peaks and valleys and ebbs and flows. And like at first it was like, whoa, I'm gonna read every book on ADHD there ever was. But that doesn't actually change my life. Or it does a little bit, So I feel like it is helpful, but I think what's harder to remember is letting it be helpful, because I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? I mean, could it, I'm depressed, but it's not that. It's not that. It's like, you just want to push against it all the time.
Yeah.
At least I just want to push against it all the time.
Yeah, I think a diagnosis can be kind of validating. That's what I hear from a lot of my viewers, is like having a name to put to it. Instead of like, oh, I feel sad. Well, why the hell do I feel sad? Oh, it's my friend depression.
Yes, that
and
guy.
it doesn't need a reason.
But then don't you ever just feel like that's not enough? Don't you ever just feel like,
like admitting myself that it's that, absolutely. Like I'll be going through my life and then I'll like have a realization like, oh, that's what's been happening for 2 months. Oh yeah, but like during those 2 months I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm good. I've been killing it. I'm like at VidCon. I'm having a great time. I can't have a panic attack at VidCon. What? So yeah, no, definitely.
Maybe it's all part of like validation of the experience and then acceptance of what it can mean for you.
Yeah, I mean, I was diagnosed when I was 12, and so I don't remember everything beforehand, but I remember, I know that there are a lot of parents who are concerned about putting a label on their kid, and the best thing that I've heard is your kid already has a label on them. It might be lazy, it might be stupid, it might be, just a rebel, but they are labeled by everybody that they meet already. Giving them a label that helps them understand their brain and helps them differentiate between this is me and this is my disorder is incredibly helpful. And then they can start getting treatment or learning strategies that can help so that they don't internalize that. Low self-esteem is so common with ADHD because we are constantly being told to try harder when that doesn't work for our brains.
And I think there's a big difference between understanding what's happening Like, if we broke our legs, people would be like, well, why can't you just go run that thing? But when we have a mental illness, people are like, well, people will just have other names for it versus being like, oh, that's actually just something that's happening in my brain I have this much control over, and then I'm still me, and I'm not all of the labels that people might throw out, all the bullies might say. That's what it is, and it can help to kind of like, I always try to have my clients externalize it, like give it a different name. Like if you don't like the diagnosis name, you can call it like that asshole. That's fine, you know? And it like helps you, like, it's not me, it's just part of what I'm going through. So yeah. Okay, next question.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Jody. I'm a high school teacher, and next year I'm going to be the sponsor of a club called Bring Change to Mind.
Pull it a little closer.
A little closer. It's very echoey for me. I'm going to be the sponsor of a club called Bring Change to Mind, which seeks to end the stigma of mental illness. What I'd like to know is, what can we do, what can I and my students do using social media, using YouTube, Twitter, to further that cause for teens and young adults?
So what the question is, if you didn't hear, is she works for Bring Change to Mind, which is an organization that works to end the stigma associated with mental illness, and like what can they do to help move that forward in teens, young adults?
I mean, I really feel like that, first of all, I love Bring Change to Mind. I think that Bring Change to Mind is a great organization. I believe that it has to start with ending the stigma that you confront within yourself first. And so it's like, you have to create your self-compassion. So each of your students and everyone around us, as much as we want to help other people, we really have to make sure that we're helping ourselves first and foremost. And then from there, the more we feel comfortable as individuals, the more conversations will organically generate around it. You know, I mean, talking about mental health is like my favorite hobby at this point. I'm like, whoa, I love it. But yeah, I don't know. I would tell your students to focus on like their wellness, and if they're like, I want to be doing more, then be like, why don't you ask one of your friends about something today? I don't know, ask questions with each other.
Yeah, and not being afraid to share information online, because I hear from a lot of my viewers are like, well, I don't know what people are going to think if I share that, and that goes back to like what Hannah's saying, that what stigmas do we hold in ourselves? Why would we be afraid to share content that's helpful, that we found helpful? Because the more we do that, the less of a thing it is, the less of a deal that sharing is, and then together we're all spreading helpful information, we're all talking about mental health, and we can all be reminded daily that we're not alone. Next question.
Hi, I'm Anne.
Hi.
Do any of you have like any advice for someone who needs to like get out of like an unhealthy rut? Like, I don't know, I'm just kind of like stuck somewhere and I feel like I can't really do anything. Like, do you have any advice for like how I could get out of that?
Do you have a hobby that you love doing? Like drawing or something like that? I would just literally focus on that hobby and amplify it, and just, I don't know, that's what helps me. You know, YouTube is a hobby, my Sims is a hobby, all of that, but when I gave myself time to focus on something other than like real human beings for a little bit, just for myself, then I don't know, I feel like more socially available, because I done kept to myself for a little bit, and now I want to go like talk to somebody and stuff. You know, talking to somebody actually does help, as much as I don't like people.
I'm going to share a story because yes, I came to my first VidCon in 2012 as a community badge holder. I fell in love with YouTube again. I decided to add structure to my life and create, and it doesn't have to be YouTube, it can be anything. And a month later was the last time that I used, and freaking 5 years later, I'm on a stage sitting next to Hannah Hart, and I'm overwhelmed right now. So ruts are temporary. They're gonna happen. I'm in one right now. Actually, I haven't posted a video in 2 months. But for me, it's understanding that it's okay to be in a rut, that you're never gonna be on all the time. I like to view it as like ebbs and flows, like Hannah was saying. It's just, there are downswings, there are upswings. Riding out those downswings, finding things day to day to help me. I have a full-time job. That's been really helpful for me. It's just having something to go to every day, whether that's school, whether that's just structure in my life. That way, when I'm not feeling passion and like, oh, I'm gonna do all of the big things, that I still have something I can feel proud of myself just for getting up in the morning. And then when it turns around, because it will turn around. This is not forever, it is temporary. Then you can feel proud of yourself that you made it through that. And then you can feel, because of that pride, it's almost like a momentum boost. And then you find yourself doing really cool things that you maybe didn't expect that you were capable of. And you can be fighting back tears on a stage, speaking into a mic, giving advice, like I am right now. And yeah, that's all I have to say.
I think that something that's hard to remember when you're in a rut, and I think we met yesterday, is that whatever you can do is enough. That's it.
That's what I love
Easier said than done.
I loved your depression video. The depression under 2 minutes was kind of like that. What can I do? I could do the dishes, or I can not, or I can shower.
Do the dishes, Katie.
I know.
Yeah, like especially me, I like running on my own schedule. Like waking up in the morning is not my favorite thing to do. I don't care. I like darkness in my house. Vampire.
Same.
And it sucks though because I learned when I do put structure, you know, when you're in school and everything, you gotta wake up in the morning, go to your first class, go to that. Now that I'm like a young adult and I don't have to do that, but when I force myself to do it, it does help for whatever reason. The structure, it helps, and I hate it.
Oh,
but
no, absolutely.
it helps.
I'm miserable.
I mean, there's a great thing going around called "Everything is Awful and I'm Not Okay." Questions to ask yourself. I did a video reenactment of that because I thought it was so helpful. If you're just in a bad place and you don't know why, if you just feel stuck, to just go through this basic self-care checklist, like when was the last time I ate, when was the last time I showered, you know, all of that.
Hungry, angry, lonely, tired.
Yeah.
Halt.
Yeah.
You gotta wait. Check out your list. Yeah. We have time for one more question.
Hi.
Oh, 2 more. Okay, Ryan says 2 more.
My name is Caroline. I was wondering, I have anxiety, and I was wondering, I also have a lot of friends that have mental illnesses, and I found it really hard when I have a mental illness to communicate with them, but not also like take on their issues while I'm trying to handle my own issues, but I also don't want to be a bad friend and not talk to them at all. Do you guys have any advice on how to kind of keep your own mental illness separate from you trying to help others?
I mean, the best advice I can give is communication with them, because if they are struggling too, even though it can be hard to hear that we can't really be there for them in the way that we want, I think them understanding where it's coming from and knowing it's not personal is really key. And so I always tell my viewers, like, just communicate as best you can. That might be in a text because it's hard to pick up the phone. It might be in an email because that's all I can do right now. But however you can communicate it and just say, you know, I love you, I want to be there for you, but right now I'm just having a shit time. Sometimes that's enough, you know, and that would be my advice, because then you're also reminding them, but hey, I love you, I want to be there, and when I'm feeling better, I'll be right back at you, but I just can't right now.
This is not the nicest and kindest answer, because I've run into this problem a lot in my life, especially after I've become kind of public about this. People kind of have this perception sometimes of me that I can fix them, that I can save them, and sometimes people do put their problems on me. At the end of the day, I'm only responsible for myself, I'm not responsible for you. So when people do cross that line, occasionally you have to kind of confront them on that, and in an empowering way, hopefully. Sometimes they don't get it, and you end up having to be the bad guy and moving away from those relationships. Obviously, that's not a catch-all thing, like when there's difficulties, not to just run away from it, because I've done that too, that's not fun. But, you know, understanding those boundaries, communicating those boundaries, but also not tolerating toxic behavior, you know, because when we're sick, many of us have been there where we have been to that toxic friend. But that's not okay, you know? It's not an excuse to treat people poorly and to bring other people down, to understand that your things are your own things, and to not put them on other people. Because even neurotypical people have trouble carrying themselves. Life is hard, regardless of your perspective and your background, everything. It is a hard thing objectively, so communicating that is really, really important for your friendships, your relationships, and then yourself as well.
Yeah, a good simple checklist is this dynamic, because I don't want to say relationship, because I don't think it's about the people, I think it's about the dynamic that you've manifested between you. Is this dynamic continually draining? Is it continually depleting? And if it is, that means there is a way you guys can structure it better. I'm a great listener, I'm really good at listening, I'm a really bad talker. I have a really hard time being like, hello, I can't get sentences out. It's really hard for me. And that's something I'm working on right now, because otherwise, everything I'm giving is just going one direction. So, check that.
I think it's such a blessing to surround yourself with a group of friends where you can say anything to them, and I'm blessed to have a group of friends like that, and it doesn't matter what it is, good, bad, evil, whatever. If I'm going through something, if they're also going through something, we now have leverage to make fun of each other for the things that we're going through. You broke up with him, girl. And it's just like this playful banter back and forth, and then that laughter happens, and then sooner or later you're not thinking about what was upsetting you in the first place. I don't know, communication, what they were saying before, is the best type of medication, that laughter, all of that.
Yeah, and boundaries. I definitely have tried to save my fair share of people, and the most helpful thing that I was ever told, and this is what I still use, is going, okay, let's boil it down really simply. What's mine and what's theirs? My responsibility is to be a friend and listen if I'm feeling up to it. Their responsibility is to do whatever needs to happen or needs to change in their life to feel better, right? And it can be so hard when you also struggle and you also know that you need things to not want to be that, that everything to somebody else, because maybe sometimes you can't be that to yourself, and so you feel like, well, I can't fix myself, but maybe I can fix somebody else. And so setting those boundaries can be really hard, and it can also feel really good to be able to help somebody, but it's important to remember that sometimes by over helping, you're actually hurting them because you're making them dependent on you.
Yeah, pretty much everything everyone else said. I think your responsibility kind of begins and ends with yourself. It's great to be a good friend. It's great, but the most I think you can really do is tell people I am here for you. If you need help, I will give it. But you can't make people go to the doctors. But you can tell them that if they need someone to go with them, you will. But it is not your responsibility to get them there. And I think a lot of people will put that on you. I know that I have lost friends because I've been too much and I haven't helped myself, and they've had to just go, I gotta take care of myself, and I've sadly done the same to other people. But yeah, you are not obliged to be someone else's therapist for a couple of reasons. One, it's not your job, and you're probably really bad at it. But also, you gotta worry about yourself. And yeah, I've seen people get dragged down and wind up in worse states than the person that's dragged them down. And it's a horrible thing. I find I usually end up saying this on stage, but it's a sad truth.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. Okay, our last question for okay, right over there.
Hi, I'm Drew. I used to go to a therapist for my anxiety and depression, and I actually went to two, and I got bullied a lot for it. So did any of you get bullied because you went to a counselor or a therapist, and how did you overcome the hate?
I was in rehab, very heavily stigmatized. Not only is addiction stigmatized, it's criminalized. There was a lot of people who assumed I was a bad person in my life for a very long time. So it wasn't necessarily bullying in that sense, but people had this idea of me that wasn't true. And maybe they had basis for that idea based on my toxic behavior, but I had a solid 3 years where nobody believed a word that I said. And that is horrible to live through, and it's probably a similar feeling to think, I'm trying so hard to help myself, why don't you see it? Please see it. And at that point, all I have to say is, and this is sort of a motto that I adopted for myself, it is a simplifying thing kind of on that, to break things down to 2 prongs. Number 1, be excellent. And that's just do your best at whatever it is that you're doing, because that's all you can do. Whether that's your recovery, whether that's whatever, just be a good person as best as you can be. It's not gonna be perfect, but try. And then number 2, let nothing stop you. Because, you know, there's always gonna be noise. There's always gonna be people outside saying things. And most times it's not true, because the only person in your head is you. So all that you have the ability to do is do you. And know that there are people who are living and have gone through that exact same thing, and that you are so freaking strong for living through that. And I personally have never met you in my life, but I'm very proud of you for living through that. And I empathize, I've been there, and there is another side to it. Just keep your head down and you'll get there. And just asking that question in such a public forum shows that you're making progress for me.
Oh, and I just think it's something I always tell myself when someone's just a jerk for no reason. It says more about them than it really does about you. And you get to choose who you accept. And I know that this is the hardest thing, and it's something I'm still learning, but people can say whatever they want. We can't control that, but I can control what I agree with and what I digest and I allow myself to believe. And then I just don't talk to those people when I can't believe anything they say. And so if you surround yourself with people who are loving, who are supportive, who are like, wow, you took that step, that's amazing. I'm so glad you're finally getting help. Like, if we can control who we spend our time with and make it at least like 60% of our time is spent with loving people, hopefully you can, you know, stop hearing those nasty voices from all those assholes out there.
And I've found, because we get a lot of this on the channel, ADHD is very controversial in terms of treatment, and there's a lot of bullying and shaming, and you shouldn't be doing that, you should be doing this, and I've been shamed for my decision to treat my ADHD. You know, everything from you don't really have it, you don't really need this, to, you know, you should be doing something else instead. Why are you taking drugs? I find that there are basically 3 kinds of situations in which this happens. One, they have no personal experience and they can't understand, and that's scary. If you can't understand what's going on in somebody's brain, it's just kind of a scary thing, and you don't know how to deal with it, so you shame them for it. I mean, I don't recommend that, but it happens. Another one is they do have personal experience with mental health issues and they're very uncomfortable with it. They haven't admitted it to themselves. And sometimes by you going and getting treatment, even in the face of them bullying you, that could lead to them getting treatment later, because you're leading by example for those people who are maybe deeply uncomfortable with the fact that they have anxiety or depression themselves. And the third kind of person is somebody who has tried treatment and it didn't work for them. Maybe they tried medication, it didn't work, they gave up, they were like, nobody should ever take medication. And they feel very passionately about that. Because it didn't work for them, nobody should take it. Or because therapy didn't work for me, you know, nobody should ever go to a therapist. So those are, you know, Katie was right. It's usually more about them than it is about you. It's their own discomfort with or personal experience with mental health. And you are a beacon of light by going and seeking treatment in that environment.
I know we need to get off the stage, but yeah, there is a degree of freedom in accepting that some people are just garbage. They're gonna bully you because you're fat, and then when you go to the gym, they'll bully you because you're a fat person at the gym, and they'll call you a waste of space because you do drugs, and then they'll call you a waste of space because you're in rehab, and the same when you have mental health issues, and the same when you, like, some people are just garbage, and it is not your job to impress them. It is your job to ignore them, and fuck them.
Thank you so much for coming. Thanks for all of your wonderful questions, and I hope you enjoy the rest of VidCon, you guys. Thanks again.
Thank you guys. Bye,
Thank you for coming out.